He had no idea that the inconvenient elderly mother he refused to pick up from her doctor's appointment, leaving me stranded in the rain for 3 hours while he prioritized his golf game, was actually the silent majority shareholder of the medical technology company where he worked as a sales director. The anonymous benefactor behind his children's elite private school scholarships worth $180,000. The hidden investor who owned the commercial property housing his wife's boutique business. The co-signer on his mortgage that made his $850,000 house purchase possible, and whose single phone call would systematically eliminate not just his $120,000 annual salary and executive benefits package, but his wife's business lease and prime retail location. His children's academic futures when their full-ride scholarships disappeared overnight, his luxury lifestyle when the mortgage support vanished and foreclosure proceedings began, and his entire professional network when word spread that the helpless old woman he abandoned in a medical parking lot while prioritizing recreational activities actually controlled the health technology empire that employed half his industry contacts and could blacklist him from every major medical sales position in the tristate area. When family disrespect meets corporate authority and teaches the most expensive lesson about eldercare priorities and understanding that the quiet woman who raised you might have spent 40 years building the business empire that makes your comfortable life possible. Before we dive into this incredible story of family betrayal, corporate justice, and the ungrateful son who learned that abandoning elderly parents can cost you everything you thought you had earned through personal merit, make sure to hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me about your worst experience with family members who took your generosity for granted. Subscribe so you never miss stories like this one about what happens when people assume elderly relatives are burdens to be managed around their social schedules, instead of understanding that decades of business leadership and strategic investments can create the kind of corporate influence that could either continue supporting ungrateful family members or systematically eliminate every professional advantage they thought was permanent. When respect and basic human decency are replaced by selfish convenience and elderly neglect that crosses lines, no parent should ever have to tolerate. My name is Catherine Walsh, I'm 72 years old, and this story begins on a rainy Tuesday morning in October 2023, when my son Michael, a 45-year-old medical equipment sales director earning $120,000 annually while living in a luxury subdivision in Westchester County, New York, received what he would later realize was the most expensive text message of his life. A simple request for a ride home from my routine cardiology appointment at Mount Sinai Medical Center, a 20-minute drive that would have taken him away from his 2 p.m. tea time at the exclusive Winged Foot Golf Club where he was meeting potential clients who might generate the commission income that funded his family's upper-middle-class lifestyle in one of America's most expensive suburban markets. "Mom, I can't pick you up today. I have an important business meeting that could close a major deal. Can you take an Uber or call one of your friends?" Michael responded within minutes, demonstrating his complete ignorance about the fact that his important business meeting was actually a recreational golf game with colleagues who worked for companies that existed solely because of contracts and partnerships that I had been facilitating through Walsh Medical Technologies for over 15 years, and whose major deal potential depended entirely on industry relationships and vendor approvals that required my personal signature and executive authorization. But to understand how my son Michael, a confident sales professional who believed how salary and company car reflected his natural sales talent and relationship-building skills rather than systematic corporate favoritism and strategic business arrangements, ended up losing his career, his home, his children's educational opportunity, and his entire lifestyle within 72 hours of leaving his 72-year-old mother stranded in a hospital parking lot during a thunderstorm. You need to know who I was before my carefully maintained image as a retired widow with modest financial resources concealed my position as founder and controlling shareholder of Walsh Medical Technology, one of the Northeast's most successful medical device manufacturing and distribution companies, responsible for supplying surgical equipment, diagnostic machinery and life support systems to over 340 hospitals, medical centers and specialty clinics throughout New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, while generating $47 million annually in revenue and maintaining exclusive contracts with healthcare networks that employed thousands of medical sales professionals throughout the region. For 38 years I was Catherine Walsh, founder and majority owner of Walsh Medical Technologies, the woman whose biomedical engineering background and business acumen had built one of America's most respected medical device companies from a small surgical instrument repair shop in White Plains into a comprehensive healthcare technology provider serving major hospital systems, including Mount Sinai Health System, New York Presbyterian, Yale New Haven Health, Boston Medical Center, and Massachusetts General Hospital, while maintaining research partnerships with Columbia University Medical School, Harvard Medical School, and Johns Hopkins University, and developing innovative surgical technologies that improved patient outcomes and saved lives in operating rooms throughout the Northeast Corridor, where our equipment supported critical medical procedures and emergency interventions that affected hundreds of thousands of patients annually. I wasn't just living as a retired widow in a modest colonial house in Scarsdale. I was the strategic leader behind medical technology innovations that had revolutionized surgical procedures and diagnostic capabilities throughout the region's healthcare system, while maintaining the corporate relationships and vendor partnerships that determined which medical sales professionals received lucrative territory assignments, exclusive product lines, and commission opportunities that could generate six-figure incomes for representatives who understood that success in medical sales required not just product knowledge and relationship skills, but access to decision-makers and corporate advocates who could open doors and facilitate introductions that turned prospects into long-term clients. My company's product portfolio included advanced surgical instruments used in cardiac procedures, orthopedic surgery, and neurological operations that required precision manufacturing and rigorous quality control standards, diagnostic imaging equipment that enabled early disease detection and treatment planning in hospitals throughout the Northeast, patient monitoring systems that provided real-time vital sign tracking and automated alerts for critical care situations, surgical robotics components that enhanced precision and reduced recovery times for complex procedures, specialized medical devices that supported emergency medicine, new intensive care, and rehabilitation services in healthcare facilities that depended on reliable equipment suppliers and responsive technical support teams, and cutting-edge laboratory equipment that facilitated medical research and pharmaceutical development in academic medical centers and commercial research facilities. My responsibilities encompassed identifying emerging medical technologies before competitors recognized market potential, coordinating complex product development programs that required collaboration between engineers, physicians, and regulatory specialists, managing vendor relationships and supply chain operations that affected inventory availability and pricing for hundreds of healthcare facilities, implementing quality assurance programs that ensured our equipment met the stringent safety standards required for life-critical medical applications, maintaining strategic partnerships with hospital administrators, chief medical officers, and procurement directors who controlled purchasing decisions for medical equipment contracts worth millions of dollars annually, and establishing research collaborations with leading medical schools and pharmaceutical companies that developed next-generation healthcare technologies requiring specialized manufacturing and distribution expertise. But these achievements only tell part of the story about the complexity and critical importance of medical technology leadership at the highest levels of healthcare equipment, manufacturing, and distribution. When you're responsible for supplying surgical instruments that affect patient survival rates, managing diagnostic equipment that determines disease detection accuracy, coordinating medical device distribution that impacts healthcare quality for millions of patients throughout major metropolitan areas, and developing innovative technologies that advance medical science and improve treatment outcomes for life-threatening conditions. Every decision carries enormous weight and consequences that extend far beyond individual company success to impact entire healthcare systems, patient care outcomes, medical research advancement, and the professional careers of medical sales representatives who depend on vendor relationships and corporate partnerships for their livelihood and advancement opportunities. During my first year in medical device manufacturing, I started by purchasing a small surgical instrument repair company in White Plains, with $35,000 in savings from my biomedical engineering position at IBM, learning medical equipment, specifications, and hospital procurement processes through direct experience with maintenance technicians, surgical staff, and procurement officers, while most competitors focused on high-volume commodity sales that ignored the specialized service and technical support requirements that distinguished quality medical device suppliers from generic equipment vendors who prioritized profit margins over patient safety and healthcare provider satisfaction. That initial investment taught me that medical technology wasn't just another business sector, but a field where product failures could result in patient deaths and where equipment reliability directly affected surgical outcomes and hospital operational efficiency. The first major breakthrough came in 1987 when I developed a specialized surgical instrument sterilization system that reduced infection rates in cardiac surgery by 23% compared to traditional sterilization methods, leading to adoption by Mount Sinai Medical Center and subsequent interest from hospitals throughout the tristate area who needed innovative infection control solutions for increasingly complex surgical procedures. This success established Walsh Medical Technologies as an innovation leader rather than just a repair service, opening doors to research partnerships and product development opportunities that would define our company's growth trajectory for the following decade. Walsh Medical Technologies had grown to include manufacturing partnerships with 18 different medical device companies, exclusive distribution agreements for advanced surgical equipment throughout the Tri-State area, service contracts with over 180 healthcare facilities that relied on our technical expertise and rapid response capabilities for equipment maintenance, emergency repair, and technology upgrades that kept critical medical systems operational during patient care emergencies and routine procedures that couldn't tolerate equipment failures or performance delay. Our company had become indispensable to the regional healthcare infrastructure, with hospitals depending on our 24/7 technical support and emergency equipment replacement services that ensured continuous patient care capability even during equipment failures or natural disasters. The 1990s expansion included establishing manufacturing facilities in Albany, New York, and Hartford, Connecticut, that produced specialized surgical instruments and diagnostic equipment components for hospitals throughout New England, while our research and development division, based in partnership with Columbia University Medical School, developed innovative medical technologies that received FDA approval and patent protection, generating licensing revenue from medical device manufacturers worldwide who wanted to incorporate our innovations into their product line. By 2000, Walsh Medical Technologies held 47 patents for medical device innovations, with licensing agreements generating over $8 million annual in additional revenue beyond our core manufacturing and distribution operations. The September 11th attacks in 2001 demonstrated the critical importance of medical emergency preparedness and equipment redundancy, as hospitals throughout the New York metropolitan area faced unprecedented patient volumes and equipment demands that tested their operational capacity and supply chain reliability. Walsh Medical Technologies' rapid response capabilities and emergency equipment deployment systems enabled us to provide critical support to overwhelmed healthcare facilities, delivering emergency surgical equipment, patient monitoring systems, and life support devices within hours of receiving requests from hospital administrators who needed immediate assistance to handle the medical crisis. Our performance during this emergency period established our reputation as the most reliable medical equipment supplier in the region, leading to preferred vendor status with major hospital systems and government healthcare agencies that valued our proven ability to deliver critical equipment during emergencies. The early 2000s brought significant expansion into digital medical technologies and computerized diagnostic systems that revolutionized patient care and hospital efficiency throughout our service area. Our partnership with General Electric Healthcare and Siemens Medical Solutions provided exclusive distribution rights for advanced imaging equipment, patient monitoring systems, and electronic health record integration technologies that modernized hospital operations and improved patient outcomes through enhanced diagnostic capabilities and streamlined clinical workflow. These partnerships positioned Walsh Medical Technologies as a comprehensive healthcare technology provider, rather than just a surgical instrument supply, expanding our influence throughout the healthcare technology industry and creating strategic relationships with vendors and suppliers that controlled access to cutting-edge medical. Our company had achieved recognition as one of the Northeast's premier medical technology companies, with and expanding into Pennsylvania and Vermont markets where hospitals needed reliable suppliers for advanced medical equipment and technical support services. Our annual revenue had grown to $47 million, with over 180 employees, including biomedical engineers, technical specialists, sales representatives, and support staff, who maintained our reputation for excellence in medical technology manufacturing, distribution, and service throughout one of America's most competitive and regulated healthcare markets. The most devastating aspect of Michael's transportation betrayal was that he had no idea that his comfortable upper-middle-class lifestyle, his children's elite private school education, and his professional success in medical sales had been systematically supported for over 8 years through strategic business arrangements, vendor partnership, and career advancement opportunities that I had facilitated through Walsh Medical Technologies' industry influence and corporate relationships, assistance worth over $100,000 in combined benefits that had elevated every aspect of his family's lifestyle, from housing and education to professional networking and commission opportunity, all while Michael assumed his success was entirely self-generated and treated me like an inconvenient elderly relative whose transportation needs could be postponed when they conflicted with his recreational schedule and social commitment. Michael's position as senior sales director at MetaQuip Solutions, where he earned $120,000 annually, plus commission bonuses that often exceeded $40,000, existed because I had specifically recommended him for the role during a strategic planning meeting with Richard Davidson, MetaQuip's, who relied on Walsh Medical Technologies for over $100,000 annually in equipment purchases and distribution agreements. The recommendation had been presented as recognition of Michael's sales potential rather than family favoritism, allowing him to believe that his hiring reflected his resume credentials and interview performance, rather than understanding that his mother controlled vendor relationships that made his employer's business model viable and profitable. The exclusive product territories that Mike managed, covering Manhattan's premier hospitals and medical centers, where commission opportunities were highest and client relationships most valuable, had been assigned to him through strategic coordination between my company and MetaQuip's territorial planning department, ensuring that he received access to the most lucrative accounts and highest value prospects in one of America's most competitive medical sales markets, where territory assignments often determined annual income potential and career advancement opportunity. His territory included Mount Sinai Medical Center, New York Presbyterian Hospital, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and NYU Langone Medical Center, all major Walsh Medical Technologies clients who maintained preferred vendor relationships that facilitated sales opportunities for MetaQuip representatives, including procurement contracts with Mount Sinai Health System, New York Presbyterian Hospital, and Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, were facilitated through Walsh Medical Technologies vendor status and my personal relationships with chief procurement officers and medical equipment directors who respected our company's reputation for quality products, reliable service, and ethical business practices that had been established through decades of consistent performance and professional excellence in healthcare technology market. These relationships provided Michael with access to decision-makers and purchasing opportunities that competing sales representatives could never obtain without similar corporate advocacy and vendor partnerships. Michael's company, Thalzaradir and W. Sedan, that he considered a symbol of his professional achievement, was provided through MetaQuip's executive benefits package, which existed because the company's profitability and market position depended entirely on vendor relationships and distribution agreements that required my approval and ongoing partnership. The vehicle wasn't just transportation, but a mobile office equipped with medical equipment, demonstration capabilities that supported his sales presentations and client relationship building throughout the competitive New York medical market, while also serving as a status symbol that enhanced his credibility with hospital administrators and procurement directors who expected medical sales representatives to demonstrate professional success and corporate backing. The golf club membership at Winged, where Michael played twice weekly and entertained potential clients in one of Westchester County's most prestigious social environments, was subsidized through Mediquip's entertainment budget and client development programs that justified expensive relationship building activities based on the company's exclusive access to high-value hospital contracts and medical center procurement opportunities that generated substantial commission income for sales directors who understood how to leverage corporate partnerships and vendor relationships for competitive advantages. The membership, worth $85,000 annually, including dues and restaurant privileges, provided Michael with access to social networks and business relationships that extended far beyond medical sales into financial services, real estate development, and professional services that enhanced his family's social status and business networking opportunities. Michael's wife Sarah operated Elegance Boutique, a high-end women's clothing store in Scarsdale's premier shopping district, occupying 400 square feet of retail space that I had purchased and renovated specifically to provide her with a business opportunity that matched her fashion merchandising background and entrepreneurial aspirations. The commercial property, valued at $1.2 million, was leased to Sarah, $800 monthly, approximately $2,200 below market rate, for premium retail space in one of Westchester County's most affluent shopping areas, where foot traffic and customer demographics supported luxury retail businesses that required substantial initial investment and ongoing marketing support. Sarah's boutique success, which she attributed to her fashion sense and customer service skills, was actually facilitated through strategic referrals from wives of Walsh Medical Technologies, corporate clients, and business partners who appreciated quality fashion retail in convenient, suburban locations. The customer base included spouses of hospital administrators, medical equipment executives, and healthcare industry professionals who had been introduced to Elegance Boutique through carefully orchestrated word-of-mouth marketing and social networking that leveraged my business relationships to create a sustainable customer foundation for Sarah's retail venture. The boutique's inventory purchasing power and vendor relationships were enhanced through connections with fashion industry suppliers who valued business relationships with successful entrepreneurs. But these relationships existed because of strategic introductions and financial guarantees that I had provided to ensure Sarah's access to quality merchandise at favorable wholesale prices. The boutique's annual revenue of approximately $1,000 generated comfortable profits that supplemented Michael's sales income and provided Sarah with professional fulfillment and financial independence that enhanced their family's lifestyle and social standing in Westchester County's competitive suburban environment. Michael and Sarah's children, Emma and Lucas, attended the Whitmore Academy, one of Westchester County's most prestigious private schools, where annual tuition costs of $45,000 per child were supplemented by additional expenses for books, technology, athletic programs, arts education, and enrichment activities that brought total educational costs to approximately $55,000 annually per child. The Walsh Family Educational Foundation, established through profits from my medical technology business, provided full scholarships covering these expenses entirely, allowing Michael and Sarah to allocate their income toward housing, transportation, and lifestyle expenses rather than struggling with educational costs that often forced even affluent families to make difficult financial choices between quality education and maintaining their desired standard of living. The Whitmore Academy provided Emma and Lucas with access to advanced academic programs, college preparatory curricula, and extracurricular opportunities, including competitive athletics, performing arts, debate team, and leadership development programs that built confidence and social skills essential for future academic and professional success. The school's alumni network included graduates at Ivy League universities and professional careers in medicine, law, finance, and technology, providing long-term networking advantages and social connections that would benefit Emma and Lucas throughout their educational and professional development. The Educational Foundation also provided additional support, including SAT preparation courses, college application consulting, summer enrichment programs, and university scholarship guidance that had helped numerous students gain admission to prestigious universities, including Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Columbia, and other elite institutions that required not only academic excellence, but also demonstrated leadership, extracurricular achievement, and strategic application planning that distinguished successful candidates from thousands of qualified applicants competing for limited enrollment opportunities. Michael and Sarah's $850,000 colonial house in Scarsdale's exclusive Heathcote neighborhood was purchased with a down payment that I had provided as a family gift, while also serving as co-signer on their mortgage application to ensure favorable interest rates and loan approval despite Michael's limited credit history and employment tenure that typically would have required higher down payments and less favorable financing terms. The house, featuring 4,200 square feet of living space, 4 bedrooms, 3 full bathrooms, a finished basement, and a 2-car garage on a half-acre lot, represented the pinnacle of suburban luxury in one of New York's most desirable residential communities. The neighborhood provided access to top-rated public schools, exclusive social clubs, recreational facilities, and proximity to Manhattan for business commuting, while maintaining the privacy and security that affluent families valued for raising children in safe, well-maintained communities, where property values appreciated consistently and social connections facilitated business networking and professional advancement opportunity. The house purchase established Michael's family in social and economic circles that enhanced their lifestyle and provided long-term financial security through real estate appreciation and community relationships. But Michael had no idea that the elderly woman he was abandoning in a medical parking lot actually controlled the healthcare technology networks and vendor relationships that had made his professional success possible, funded his luxury lifestyle through strategic business arrangements, provided his children's educational opportunities through comprehensive scholarship programs, enabled his wife's business success through below-market commercial leasing and customer referral network, and facilitated his family's housing acquisition through down payment assistance and mortgage co-signing that had made their suburban dream lifestyle financially accessible despite his actual earning capacity and credit qualification. The modest widow, whose transportation request he prioritized below his recreational activities, was actually documenting his elderly neglect and family disrespect that would ultimately determine whether he continued enjoying the benefits of my corporate influence and financial support. Learned what his professional prospects, lifestyle options, and family security looked like without the vendor relationships, territory assignments, client access, educational funding, housing assistance, and business advantages that had been supporting his upper-middle-class lifestyle and social status for nearly a decade without his knowledge, appreciation, or appropriate gratitude for the family member whose business success and industry influence had made his comfortable life possible. My home office, which appeared to be a simple retirement workspace with basic computer equipment and family photographs, actually contained the sophisticated corporate management systems and communication networks that coordinated medical device operations for over 3 managed vendor agreements and distribution contracts worth $47 million annually, tracked quality control and regulatory compliance across multiple product lines and manufacturing facilities, monitored financial performance across a medical technology portfolio that generated enough monthly revenue to fund luxury lifestyles for hundreds of employees,
and business partners, and maintained strategic relationships with hospital administrators, government healthcare officials, and medical equipment manufacturers, who understood that success in healthcare technology required maintaining excellent relationships with corporate leadership and industry executives who controlled access to the most valuable opportunities and strategic partnerships.
The phone calls that Michael occasionally overheard during family visits weren't just social conversations with elderly friends seeking companionship and emotional support. They were strategic consultations with hospital administrators who managed multi-million-dollar equipment budgets, FDA regulatory specialists who guided medical device approval processes, venture capital investors who funded medical technology startups, university researchers who developed breakthrough medical innovations, and industry analysts who tracked healthcare technology trends and market opportunities that determined which companies received investment funding and which emerging technologies gained market acceptance and widespread adoption throughout the healthcare industry. The modest colonial house where I lived quietly while managing a medical technology empire worth tens of millions of dollars was strategically located within 20 minutes of Columbia University Medical School, Mount Sinai Medical Center, and New York Presbyterian Hospital, providing convenient access to the research facilities, clinical environments, and professional networks that drove innovation and business development, and one of America's most concentrated and competitive healthcare technology markets, where proximity to medical institutions and academic research centers provided significant advantages for companies seeking to develop and commercialize breakthrough medical technology. The stage was set for a transportation request that would test whether Michael understood that elderly parents deserved basic respect and consideration, regardless of their apparent dependency on family members for occasional assistance, or whether he would demonstrate the selfish disregard and family neglect that would cost him everything he thought he had earned through personal merit, while learning that professional success often depends on relationships and support systems that require gratitude, respect, and understanding. That family obligations sometimes take priority over recreational activities and social commitments that pale in importance compared to basic human decency and eldercare responsibilities that distinguish good sons from entitled adults who forget that their opportunities and advantages often originated through family connections and strategic assistance that could be withdrawn as quickly as it had been provided when recipients demonstrated unacceptable behavior toward elderly relatives whose generosity and business success had made their comfortable lives possible. Looking back now with the clarity that comes from watching adult children reveal their true character through their treatment of elderly parents they consider financially irrelevant and socially burdensome, I can see that Michael's refusal to provide transportation assistance wasn't a sudden decision formed during a busy Tuesday morning when recreational activities conflicted with family responsibilities. It was the culmination of a carefully calculated pattern of elderly dismissal and family obligation avoidance that had been developing for over 2 years, as Michael's professional success and financial comfort convinced him that his elderly mother represented an inconvenient reminder of family dependence, rather than understanding that his comfortable lifestyle existed because of strategic business relationships and corporate influence that required continued respect, appreciation, and basic human decency toward the woman whose medical technology empire had created every advantage he enjoyed in his professional and personal life. What Michael didn't know, and what he would discover in the most expensive way possible within 48 hours of abandoning me hospital parking lot, was that the modest colonial house in Scarsdale, where I prepared traditional Irish meals and displayed family photographs, was actually the private headquarters of one of the Northeast's most influential medical technology companies, whose vendor relationships and corporate partnerships had generated breakthrough healthcare innovations that improved patient outcomes for millions of people while creating the financial foundation that had elevated Michael's family to upper-middle-class comfort they believed they had earned through individual merit and professional achievement, rather than understanding the systematic corporate support and strategic business arrangements that had been facilitating their success since Michael first entered medical sales 8 years earlier. The comfortable living room where Michael's children played video games during occasional family visits, furnished with traditional pieces that reflected my preference for understated elegance, rather than ostentatious wealth displays, contained the same strategic planning capabilities that had coordinated medical technology development programs, worth millions of dollars across multiple research institutions and healthcare systems throughout the Northeast Corridor. The family photos and graduation pictures that covered my piece weren't just proud grandmother displays, they were visual documentation of educational achievements that had been systematically supported through Walsh Medical Technologies' profits and industry connections that most family members had never questioned or investigated because they assumed their success was entirely self-generated through personal effort and professional competence. The kitchen where I prepared elaborate Sunday dinners for ungrateful family members was equipped with secure communication systems that allowed me to coordinate with hospital administrators, medical equipment procurement directors, and healthcare technology executives who managed purchasing decisions for surgical equipment, diagnostic machinery, and life support systems that determined which medical sales representatives received access to high-value accounts and commission opportunities that could generate six-figure incomes for professionals who understood that success in medical sales required not just product knowledge and relationship skills, but corporate advocacy and vendor partnerships that opened doors and facilitated introductions throughout the most competitive and lucrative segments of healthcare technology market. The dining room table where Michael's family gathered for holiday meals had hosted strategic planning sessions with FDA regulatory specialists, medical device patent attorneys, and healthcare venture capital investors who controlled funding allocation for medical technology startup, university research partnerships, and commercial development projects that generated both breakthrough medical innovations and substantial returns for investors who understood that healthcare technology success required sophisticated understanding of regulatory requirements, clinical validation processes, and market adoption strategies that distinguished successful medical device companies from failed startups that underestimated the complexity of healthcare technology commercialization. My home office, which appeared to be a simple retirement workspace with basic computer equipment and traditional furniture that Michael occasionally glanced at during family visits, actually contained the sophisticated corporate management information systems and communication networks that coordinated medical device manufacturing operations for over 300 healthcare facilities, generating $47 million in combined revenue, managed vendor agreements and distribution contracts for hundreds of hospitals and medical centers, tracked quality control and regulatory compliance across multiple product lines and manufacturing facilities, and monitored financial performance across a medical technology portfolio that had grown systematically over 4 decades through strategic acquisitions, ethical business practices, and reinvestment of profits into additional technology development and market expansion that served health provider needs, while building generational wealth that could either continue supporting ungrateful family members or be systematically redirected based on their treatment of the elderly woman whose business acumen had created their comfortable lifestyle. The filing systems that look like typical elderly paperwork organization actually housed documentation for medical device patents, FDA approval certificates, hospital procurement contracts, university research partnerships, manufacturing agreements, quality assurance protocols, and strategic business relationships that represented 4 decades of systematic medical technology development and corporate relationship building in the most regulated and competitive healthcare markets in America, where success required sophisticated understanding of medical device regulation, clinical validation requirements, hospital procurement processes, and physician adoption patterns that determined which innovations gained market acceptance and which promising technologies failed due to inadequate preparation or insufficient industry relationship. But beyond the physical infrastructure that supported my medical technology operations, what Michael completely failed to understand during our increasingly infrequent family interactions was that my daily routine represented the same level of business expertise and industry influence that had earned Walsh Medical Technologies recognition as one of the Northeast's most successful private medical device companies, featured in Healthcare Technology Weekly, Medical Equipment Journal, and Biomedical Business Review, and consulted by hospital administrators seeking guidance on medical equipment procurement and technology adoption strategies, and respected by industry professionals who understood that my expertise in medical device development, regulatory compliance, and healthcare market analysis had created one of the most profitable and ethically operated medical technology companies in the healthcare industry. My morning schedule that Michael occasionally observed during weekend family visits included reviewing overnight maintenance reports from 16 different hospital engineering departments who managed our medical equipment installation, analyzing healthcare technology market data from commercial databases that cost $24,000 annually to access, and provided competitive intelligence about medical device innovations, regulatory changes, and procurement trends, coordinating with medical device sales teams, who managed relationships with hospital administrators and chief medical officers throughout our service territory, and implementing strategic decisions about technology acquisitions, research partnerships, and market expansion that affected hundreds of healthcare facilities' equipment, capabilities, and thousands of medical sales professionals' career opportunities and commission income potential. The phone conversations that Michael occasionally overheard during family visits weren't just socials with elderly friends seeking companionship and emotional support, they were strategic consultations with chief medical officers who managed clinical technology adoption at major hospital systems, FDA regulatory specialists who guided medical device approval processes and compliance requirements, biomedical engineering professors who directed university research programs, developing breakthrough medical technology, venture capital partners who funded medical technology startups and expansion projects, and healthcare industry analysts who tracked market trends and technological innovations that determined which medical device companies received investment funding and which emerging technologies gained widespread adoption throughout the healthcare industry. The traditional grandmother activities that Michael observed during family visits were actually advanced medical technology management techniques that I demonstrated through the Walsh Institute for Healthcare Innovation, our exclusive training program that prepared medical device sales professionals, hospital biomedical engineers, and healthcare technology executives for leadership positions in medical equipment companies, hospital system regulatory agencies that required sophisticated understanding of medical device technology, clinical applications, regulatory compliance, and healthcare market dynamics that balanced technological innovation with patient safety and healthcare provider operational efficiency. The Walsh Institute was perhaps the most prestigious medical technology training program in the northeastern United States, accepting only 24 participants annually through an application process more competitive than medical school admissions, and requiring extensive experience in medical sales, biomedical engineering, or healthcare administration before candidates qualified for consideration. Our program alumni included medical device sales directors at Fortune 500 healthcare companies, biomedical engineering managers at major hospital systems, FDA regulatory specialists who guided medical device approval processes, and healthcare technology executives who managed clinical engineering departments responsible for medical equipment worth hundreds of millions of dollars and affecting patient care outcomes for thousands of families throughout major metropolitan healthcare markets. Students paid $1,000 for our intensive 18-month program, which included hands-on training in medical device technology internships at leading hospital systems, regulatory compliance workshops with FDA specialists, and personal mentorship from me and our network of healthcare technology professionals who managed medical equipment operations, clinical engineering departments, and healthcare technology companies that created career advancement opportunities and strategic partnerships throughout the medical device industry, where networking and industry relationships often determined professional success and advancement potential more than individual technical skills or academic credentials. The waiting list for admission to the Walsh Institute extended over 3 years, and we regularly declined applications from biomedical engineers at major medical device companies who didn't meet our standards for ethical practices, patient safety focus, and commitment to healthcare innovation. that distinguished our approach from profit-driven medical device development, prioritized maximum revenue over clinical effectiveness and patient outcome improvement considerations that should guide responsible medical technology innovation and healthcare equipment development. What made our program unique wasn't just the training quality, it was the industry connections and career advancement opportunities that came with graduation from the most respected medical technology education program in Northeastern healthcare market. Walsh Institute graduates had automatic access to executive positions at medical device companies that never advertised openings, received personal recommendations from hospital administrators and chief medical officers, and could leverage our network of alumni and professional partners to build careers that would be impossible to achieve through traditional medical device education and industry networking that didn't provide access to the highest levels of healthcare technology decision-making and clinical engineering leadership that controlled medical equipment budgets and procurement decisions for major hospital systems. Michael's comfortable lifestyle, which he considered the result of personal achievement and professional competence in medical sales, was actually dependent on relationships with hospital administrators and medical equipment procurement directors that exist because of exclusive partnerships and strategic vendor agreements that I controlled through decades of ethical medical device development and healthcare-focused technology innovation that had taken 40 years to establish through consistent excellence in product quality, clinical support, and patient safety priorities that served healthcare providers, while generating the financial returns necessary for continued technology development and market expansion that benefited patients and healthcare professionals throughout the region. Michael's medical sales success, which he attributed to his relationship-building skills and product knowledge expertise, was actually facilitated by vendor partnerships and procurement relationships that reflected not only his sales capabilities and professional presentation skills, but also the institutional trust and healthcare industry reputation that my medical technology company provided to sales representatives seeking access to hospital decision-makers and medical equipment procurement opportunities. His sales performance wasn't based solely on individual merit, though he was certainly qualified and hardworking, but on the industry relationships and corporate partnerships that my reputation provided to medical sales professionals seeking strategic advantages in highly competitive healthcare technology market. The territory assignments that allowed Michael's sales success were structured through coordination between Walsh Medical Technologies and MedEquip Solutions Territorial Planning Department, ensuring that he received access to the most lucrative hospital accounts and highest opportunities in Manhattan's premier medical centers, where procurement decisions involved millions of dollars in annual equipment purchases, and where sales representative access required corporate endorsements and vendor relationships that most competitors couldn't obtain without similar industry advocacy and strategic partnerships with established medical device suppliers. The major client relationships that had established Michael's reputation as a successful medical sales professional, including exclusive sales agreements with Mount Sinai Health System, New York Presbyterian Hospital, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and NYU Langone Medical Center, were facilitated through Walsh Medical Technologies' preferred vendor status and my personal relationships with chief procurement officers, biomedical engineering director, and hospital administrators who respected our company's 40-year reputation for quality medical devices, reliable technical support, and ethical business practices that prioritized patient safety and healthcare provider satisfaction over maximum profit extraction and competitive advantage manipulation that characterized many medical device companies' approach to hospital relationships and procurement strategy development. Michael's company benefits package, including the $65,000 BMW sedan, comprehensive health insurance, retirement contributions, and executive compensation structure, existed because MedEquip Solutions' profitability and market position depended entirely on vendor relationships and distribution agreements that required my approval and ongoing partnership coordination with Walsh Medical Technologies' business development team. The benefits weren't just employment perks, but strategic investments in maintaining sales force effectiveness and professional credibility,
that supported complex medical equipment sales processes and long-term client relationship development throughout competitive healthcare technology markets, where sales representatives needed to demonstrate corporate backing and professional success to gain credibility with hospital administrators and medical equipment procurement committees. The golf club membership at Winged Foot, where Michael entertained potential clients and maintained professional relationships in one of Westchester County's most exclusive social environments, was subsidized through MediQuip's client development budget and relationship building programs that justified expensive entertainment activities based on the company's exclusive access to high-value hospital contracts and medical center procurement opportunities that generated substantial commission income for sales directors who understood how to leverage corporate partnerships and vendor relationships for competitive advantage in medical equipment sales, where personal relationships and trust often determined purchasing decisions more than technical specifications or pricing considerations. But Michael had no idea that the elderly woman whose transportation requests he consistently prioritized below his recreational activities, professional networking opportunities, actually controlled the healthcare technology networks and vendor partnerships that had made his medical sales career possible, funded his family's luxury lifestyle through strategic business arrangements and corporate influence, and provided the industry access and client relationships that distinguished his sales performance from competing medical representatives who lacked similar corporate advocacy and vendor partnership support that opened doors and facilitated introductions throughout the most exclusive and profitable segments of healthcare technology markets, where success required not just individual sales skills, but systematic industry relationships and strategic business partnerships. The pattern of family obligation avoidance that Michael had developed over the previous 2 years reflected his growing assumption that his professional success and financial security were entirely self-generated achievements that didn't require continued gratitude or appropriate treatment of elderly relatives who appeared to be financially dependent and socially isolated, rather than understanding that his comfortable lifestyle depended on business relationships and corporate influence that required respect, appreciation, and basic human decency toward family members whose generosity and strategic assistance had created opportunities and advantages that he had never acknowledged or properly valued. The first clear indication of Michael's changing attitude toward family responsibilities occurred during Thanksgiving 2021, when he arrived 3 hours late to dinner because he had prioritized a golf game with potential clients over family gathering obligations, demonstrating his belief that professional networking activities should take precedence over elderly parent social needs and family tradition participation that he considered less important than career advancement opportunities and commission income generation that funded his family's lifestyle and social status in Westchester County's competitive suburban environment. "Sorry I'm late, Mom. I had an opportunity to play golf with some major decision-makers from Presbyterian Hospital, and these relationships could lead to significant sales opportunities next year," Michael explained while still wearing his golf attire and obviously expecting understanding and approval for prioritizing business networking over family commitment. Speaking with the confident assumption that elderly relatives should appreciate his professional dedication and career focus, rather than expecting punctuality and appropriate prioritization of family obligations during traditional holiday celebrations, but Michael's reference to major decision-makers from Presbyterian Hospital revealed his complete ignorance about the fact that his access to Presbyterian Hospital procurement officials existed entirely because of Walsh Medical Technologies' preferred vendor status, and my personal relationships with hospital administrators had been purchasing medical equipment from our company for over 20 years, and whose willingness to include Michael in social activities reflected their respect for our family business reputation, rather than recognition of his individual sales capabilities or professional networking skill. The Thanksgiving incident established a pattern of family obligation subordination that continued throughout 2022 and 2020, and personal convenience over elderly parent needs, and family responsibility fulfillment that required modest time investments and basic consideration for the woman whose business success and corporate influence had created every advantage he enjoyed in his professional and personal life. During Christmas 2022, Michael canceled our traditional holiday dinner to attend a golf tournament in Florida with clients from Mount Sinai Medical Center, leaving me to spend the holiday alone, while he pursued what he described as crucial relationship-building activities that could generate major sales opportunities in the new year, obviously believing that elderly relatives should understand and accept the secondary priority of family gatherings compared to professional advancement pursuits and commission income opportunities that funded his luxury lifestyle and recreational preferences. The ski trip to Vermont in February 2023, where Michael spent a long weekend entertaining hospital administrators from Yale New Haven Health, represented another example of his systematic prioritization of recreational networking over family obligations, as he canceled plans to help me with routine medical appointments and household tasks that required transportation assistance and physical support that most adult children provided to elderly parents, without considering such assistance burdensome or inconvenient compared to their social and professional activity. Michael's pattern of family obligation avoidance had expanded to include consistent cancellation of weekend visits, refusal to provide transportation assistance for medical appointments and social activity, and general unavailability for family emergencies or routine support needs that required modest time investments but conflicted with his golf schedule, recreational activity, and professional networking commitments that he considered more important than elderly parent care and family responsibility fulfillment. The July 2023 incident, where Michael refused to help me move furniture after a minor home renovation project, demonstrated his complete transformation. Grateful son who appreciated family support to entitled adult who considered elderly parent assistance requests inconvenient interruptions of his recreational schedule and social commitments that took precedence over family obligations and basic human decency toward the woman whose business success had made his comfortable lifestyle possible. Mom, I can't help you with furniture moving this weekend. Sarah and I are hosting a pool party for some of my clients, and this kind of entertainment is really important for maintaining professional relationships that drive our family's financial security. Michael explained while declining to assist with tasks that would have required 3 hours of physical labor, speaking with obvious conviction that elderly relatives should appreciate his professional dedication and understand that business networking activities required prioritization over family assistance needs and household support requests. But Michael's reference to financial security and professional relations revealed his fundamental failure to understand that his client relationships, business networking opportunities, and professional success existed entirely because of corporate partnerships and vendor agreements. I controlled through Walsh Medical Technologies industry influence and strategic business relationships that had been supporting his career advancement and commission income for 8 years without his knowledge or appropriate appreciation. The August 2023 birthday celebration, where Michael arrived 2 hours late because he had extended a business lunch with potential clients from Boston Medical Center, represented the culmination of his systematic family disrespect and elderly obligation avoidance that demonstrated his complete belief that professional activity should always take precedence over family commitments and elderly parent social needs, regardless of the importance or traditional significance of family occasions and celebratory events that required punctuality and appropriate prioritization. I know I'm late for your birthday dinner, but this lunch meeting could lead to a major equipment contract that would generate significant commission income for our family. Michael announced while expecting gratitude and understanding for his professional dedication, rather than recognizing that his tardiness demonstrated fundamental disrespect for elderly relatives and family celebrations that deserved appropriate time allocation and priority consideration, regardless of professional opportunities and business networking commitments. The pattern of family disrespect and elderly obligation avoidance that Michael had established over 2 years created the foundation for his ultimate transportation refusal that would trigger consequences more expensive than any recreational activity or professional networking opportunity could justify, teaching him the most costly lesson about family priorities and elderly respect that adult child had ever received from a parent whose business success and corporate influence could determine whether his comfortable lifestyle continued or disappeared entirely based on his treatment of the woman whose generosity had made his professional success and financial security possible.
By October 2023, Michael's assumption that his elderly mother represented a minor inconvenience to be managed around his recreational schedule and professional networking commitments had created such systematic family disrespect and obligation avoidance that he felt completely comfortable refusing a simple transportation request in favor of recreational golf activities that he considered more important than basic elderly care and family responsibility fulfillment that distinguished good sons from entitled adults who had forgotten that their success often depended on relationships and support. Systems that required continued gratitude, respect, and appropriate treatment of family members whose generosity had created opportunities and advantages that could be withdrawn as quickly as they had been provided when recipients demonstrated unacceptable behavior toward elderly relatives. Business achievements deserved appreciation rather than dismissal and neglect. The final descent into complete family disrespect and elderly exploitation began in earnest during September 2023, when Michael's increasingly entitled behavior toward family obligations escalated from occasional tardiness and recreational prioritization to systematic dismissal of my needs and outright refusal to acknowledge that his elderly mother deserved basic consideration and respect, regardless of how successful he believed his professional achievements had made him in the competitive world of med equipment sales, where his $120,000 salary and executive benefits package had convinced him that he was a self-made success story who had earned the right to prioritize his recreational activities and social commitments over family responsibilities that he now considered beneath his professional status and social standing in Westchester County's affluent suburban community. What Michael failed to understand, and what would cost him everything within 48 hours of his ultimate transportation refusal, was that his systematic pattern of elderly dismissal and family obligation avoidance, being carefully documented by the same strategic planning mindset that had built Walsh Medical Technologies from a small repair shop into a $47 million medical device empire, and that every act of disrespect and family neglect was creating legal and ethical justification for consequences that would systematically eliminate every advantage and professional opportunity that my corporate influence and industry relationships had been providing to his family for nearly a decade without his knowledge, appreciation, or appropriate gratitude toward the woman whose business acumen and strategic partnerships had made his comfortable lifestyle possible. The September 5th, which would later be recognized as the beginning of Michael's complete transformation from occasional family obligation avoidance to systematic elderly abuse and disrespect, occurred when I requested his assistance for a routine grocery shopping trip to accommodate my recent difficulty with heavy lifting following a minor arthritis flare-up that made carrying groceries and household supplies physically challenging for a 72-year-old woman who had spent 4 decades building a medical technology company while maintaining an independent lifestyle that didn't typically require family assistance or support from adult children who should have been eager to provide occasional help for the elderly parent whose generosity had created their comfortable lives. "Mom, I can't help you with grocery shopping today. I'm meeting Dr. Patterson Silverstein from Mount Sinai for an extended golf session at Winged Foot, and these relationships are crucial for maintaining my sales territory and commission income that supports our family's lifestyle. Michael responded to my assistant's request with obvious irritation that I had interrupted his recreational planning with family obligation requests, speaking with the confident assumption that elderly relatives should understand and appreciate his professional networking priorities, rather than expecting basic physical assistance and consideration for age-related limitations that required modest accommodation and family support. But Michael's reference to Dr. Patterson and Dr. Silverstein from Mount Sinai revealed his complete ignorance about the fact that both physicians had been personal friends and professional colleagues of mine for over 15 years, serving on Walsh Medical Technologies Clinical Advisory Board and participating in medical device evaluation committees that had helped our company develop breakthrough surgical instruments and diagnostic equipment that improved patient outcomes throughout the Mount Sinai health system. Willingness to include Michael in social activities reflected their respect for our family's long-standing relationship and my company's reputation in medical technology innovation, rather than recognition of his individual sales capabilities or professional networking skills that he believed had earned him access to exclusive social circles and recreational opportunities with prominent physicians. The grocery shopping refusals established a pattern of physical assistance avoidance that continued throughout September and October, as Michael consistently declined requests for help with household tasks, transportation needs, and routine activities that required physical capabilities or assistance that most adult children provided to elderly parents, without considering such support burdensome or inconvenient, compared to their recreational activities and professional commitments that took precedence over family obligations and basic elderly care responsibilities. During the September 28 medical appointment scheduling crisis, when my cardiologist office called to reschedule an important follow-up consultation to an earlier time slot that conflicted with my limited transportation options, Michael's response demonstrated the complete erosion of family priority and elderly consideration that had been developing over the previous 2 years of recreational prioritization and professional networking focus that convinced him elderly parent needs should accommodate his schedule rather than understanding that family medical emergencies and healthcare appointments required immediate attention and appropriate support for less adult children regardless of their personal or professional commitments. Mom, I can't drive you to your cardiology appointment tomorrow morning because I have a breakfast meeting with the procurement team from New York Presbyterian, and this meeting could lead to a major equipment contract that would significantly boost my commission income this quarter. Michael explained while declining to provide transportation assistance for an important medical consultation, speaking with obvious conviction that elderly relatives should reschedule healthcare appointments around his business meetings, rather than expecting family medical needs to receive appropriate priority and consideration over professional activities that he considered more important than elderly parent health and medical care requirements. But Michael's reference to the procurement team from New York Presbyterian demonstrated his fundamental failure to understand that his access to Presbyterian hospital purchasing officials existed entirely because New York Presbyterian had been a major Walsh Medical Technologies client for over 20 years, purchasing over $8 million in surgical equipment, diagnostic machinery and medical devices that supported their clinical operations and patient care capabilities. The procurement team's willingness to meet with Michael for breakfast reflected their long-standing business relation with our family company rather than recognition of his individual sales expertise or professional qualifications that he believed had earned him direct access to major hospital decision-makers and equipment purchasing authorities. The medical appointment conflict resolution that I was forced to arrange independently, rescheduling the cardiology consultation to accommodate Michael's breakfast meeting and arranging alternative transportation through a medical transport service that cost $100 for round-trip assistance, represented the first time that Michael's recreational prioritization had directly impacted my healthcare management and medical appointment accessibility, demonstrating his complete transformation from supportive family member to entitled adult who expected elderly relatives to accommodate his professional schedule rather than receiving appropriate consideration. Assistance for important medical needs that required family support and transportation coordination. The October 8th furniture delivery situation revealed the extent of Michael's physical assistance avoidance and elderly support neglect that had escalated from occasional inconvenience, systematic refusal of basic family obligations that most adult children fulfilled without hesitation or complaint when elderly parents required modest assistance with household tasks and physical activities that became challenging due to age-related limitations and health considerations, deserved family accommodation and support rather than dismissal and avoidance that prioritized recreational activities over elderly care responsibilities. When a new bedroom set that I had purchased required assembly and arrangement that exceeded my physical capability, Michael's response to my assistance request demonstrated his complete belief that elderly parent needs should be managed through professional services rather than family support, and that his recreational activities and social commitment should take precedence over family obligations, regardless of the cost or inconvenience that his assistance avoidance created for elderly relatives who needed modest physical help and family consideration. "Mom, I can't help you with furniture assembly this weekend because Sarah and I are attending a couples golf tournament at Westchester Country Club with several clients from Memorial Sloan Kettering. This kind of social networking is essential for maintaining the professional relationships that generate our family's financial security and lifestyle advantages," Michael announced while declining to provide physical assistance that would have required 4 hours of assembly work, speaking with obvious expectation that elderly relatives should appreciate his professional dedication and understand that business entertainment activities required prioritization over family assistance needs and household support requests that could be handled through paid services. But Michael's reference to clients from Memorial Sloan Kettering revealed his ignorance about the fact that Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center had been purchasing Walsh Medical Technologies, specialized oncology equipment, and surgical instruments for over 18 years, maintaining procurement relationships and vendor partnerships that facilitated access to hospital decision-makers and clinical staff who respected our company's reputation for quality medical devices and innovative cancer treatment technology. The couple's golf tournament invitation reflected institutional relationships and corporate partnerships rather than individual professional achievement or networking success that Michael believed had earned him social access to prominent medical professionals and healthcare industry leaders. The furniture assembly crisis that resulted from Michael's assistant's refusal required hiring professional assembly services at a cost of $450, arranging delivery coordination with building management, and managing installation scheduling that could have been handled efficiently through family cooperation and basic physical assistance that adult children typically provided to elderly parents without considering such support extraordinary or burdensome compared to their recreational activities and professional networking commitments that took precedence over family obligations and elder care responsibilities. The October 22nd emergency assistance refusal represented perhaps the most shocking example of Michael's complete transformation from supportive family member to entitled adult who prioritized recreational activities over elderly parent emergency needs and safety concerns that required immediate family response and assistance regardless of personal convenience or professional commitments that paled in importance compared to elderly family member welfare and emergency support requirements that distinguished responsible adult children from selfish individuals who've forgotten their family obligations and elderly care responsibilities. When my home security system malfunctioned during a weekend evening, triggering false alarms and creating a situation that required immediate attention and technical assistance to resolve electrical problems and restore security functionality that protected my home and personal safety, Michael's response demonstrated his complete prioritization of recreation activities over elderly parent emergency needs and security concerns that demanded immediate family response and assistance regardless of personal convenience or social commitments that should have been considered secondary to family crisis management and elderly support requirement. I can't come over to help with your security system tonight because we're hosting a dinner party for several hospital administrators and their spouses, and this kind of entertainment is crucial for maintaining the professional relationships that support my sales territory and commission opportunities. Michael explained while declining to provide emergency assistance for a home security crisis, speaking with obvious conviction that elder relatives should handle emergency situations independently or through professional services, rather than expecting family members to prioritize elderly safety and security needs over social entertainment and professional networking activities that he considered more important than family crisis response and elderly care obligations. But Michael's reference to hospital administrators and their spouses revealed his complete failure to understand that the guests at his dinner party included executives from hospitals that had been purchasing Walsh Medical Technology as equipment for maintaining business relationships and corporate partnerships that had nothing to do with Michael's individual sales performance or professional networking skills. The hospital administrator's willingness to attend social events at Michael's home reflected their respect for our family's long-standing reputation in medical technology manufacturing, rather than recognition of his personal achievement or professional competence that he believed had earned him social relationships with prominent healthcare industry leaders. The emergency security situation that I was forced to resolve independently, contacting emergency repair services that charged premium rates for weekend assistance and managing technical troubleshooting that could have been handled efficiently through family cooperation, cost over $680 and required 4 hours of coordination with multiple service providers who were unfamiliar with my home's security configuration and electrical systems that Michael could have assisted with based on his familiarity with my house and previous experience helping with household maintenance and technical problems. The November 3rd birthday celebration disaster revealed the complete extent of Michael's family disrespect and elderly dismissal that had escalated from occasional tardiness and recreational prioritization to systematic avoidance of family obligations and celebrations that traditionally required family participation and appropriate recognition. Elderly relatives who deserved respect, appreciation, and consideration for their role in creating family success and providing generational support that enabled comfortable lifestyles and professional opportunities for adult children who should have been grateful rather than entitled in their approach to family relationships and elderly care responsibilities. When I planned a modest 72nd birthday celebration that required minimal family participation and coordination, a simple dinner gathering that would have required 3 hours of Michael's time and basic consideration, traditional family celebrations that honor elderly relatives and acknowledge their importance in family relationships and generational continuity. Michael's response demonstrated his complete transformation from grateful son to entitled adult who considered elderly parent celebrations inconvenient interruptions of his recreational schedule and social commitments that took precedence over family traditions and elderly recognition that distinguished good families from dysfunctional relationships where elderly relatives were treated like burdens rather than respected family members whose achievements deserved appreciation and celebration. Mom, I can't attend your birthday dinner because I'm playing in a charity golf tournament at Bedford Hills Country Club with chief medical officers from 3 major hospital systems, and this event provides incredible networking opportunities that could generate significant business relationships and commission income for our family's financial future. Michael announced while declining to participate in his elderly mother's birthday celebration,
speaking with obvious expectation that family gatherings should accommodate his professional networking schedule rather than expecting recreational activities to be postponed for important family celebrations and elderly recognition events that deserved appropriate priority and family participation. But Michael's reference to chief medical officers from 3 major hospital systems demonstrated his ignorance about the fact that all 3 CMOs had been professional colleagues and advisory board members for Walsh Medical Technologies for over a decade, participating in clinical evaluation committees and technology assessment programs that had helped our company develop breakthrough medical devices and establish clinical validation protocols that supported regulatory approval and market adoption throughout major healthcare systems. Participation in charity golf events reflected long-standing professional relationships and corporate partnerships rather than individual networking success or professional achievement that Michael believed had earned him access to executive-level healthcare industry leaders and decision-makers. The birthday celebration that I was forced to cancel due to Michael's absence and family disrespect, representing the first time in 45 years that I had spent my birthday alone, rather than surrounded by family members who appreciated the importance of elderly recognition, traditions that honored generational relationships, and acknowledged the sacrifices and achievements that created opportunities for younger family members, became a turning point in my documentation of Michael's systematic elderly abuse and family neglect that would soon justify consequences more severe than any recreational activity or professional networking opportunity could warrant, or any family relationship could survive. The November 18th Thanksgiving planning conflict represented the culmination of Michael's family obligation avoidance and elderly dismissal that had escalated over 2 years from occasional recreational prioritization to systematic refusal of family participation and celebration attendance that demonstrated his complete belief that elderly relatives should accommodate his schedule rather than expecting family traditions and holiday celebrations to receive appropriate priority and consideration over recreational activities and professional commitments that paled in importance compared to family relationships and elderly respect that distinguished good families from dysfunctional relationships where success had created entitlement, gratitude. When I requested Michael's participation in traditional Thanksgiving celebration planning and preparation that would have required modest time investment and basic family cooperation to coordinate meal preparation, guest accommodation, and holiday logistics that had been successfully managed for decades through family collaboration and shared responsibility among adult children who understood that elderly relatives deserved support and assistance for traditional celebrations that honored family relationships and generational continuity. Michael's response revealed his complete transformation from grateful family member to entitled adult who considered elderly parent celebrations burdensome obligations that interfered with his recreational preferences and social commitments. I can't help with Thanksgiving planning this year because Sarah and I are hosting a golf weekend in the Hamptons for several major medical equipment distributors and their family, and this kind of entertainment is essential for maintaining the business relationships that support our lifestyle and professional success, Michael announced while declining to participate in traditional family holiday planning, speaking with obvious conviction that elderly relatives should manage holiday celebrations independently rather than expecting family cooperation and shared responsibility for traditional gatherings that required coordination and preparation that adult children typically provided without considering such assistance extraordinary or burdensome compared to the recreational activities and professional networking commitments. But Michael's reference to major medical equipment distributors revealed his fundamental failure to understand that the distributors attending his Hamptons weekend were actually Walsh Medical Technologies business partners and vendor relationships that had been established through decades of ethical business practices and strategic partnerships that had nothing to do with Michael's individual professional achievement or networking capabilities.
Their willingness to attend social events reflected long-standing corporate relationships
and business partnerships, rather than recognition of his personal success or professional competence that he believed had earned him social relationships with medical equipment, industry leaders and distribution executives. The Thanksgiving celebration that I was forced to cancel due to Michael's family obligation, avoidance, and elderly dismissal, representing the first time in over 50 years that our family had failed to maintain traditional holiday celebrations that honored family relationships and provided opportunities for generational interaction. Recognition became the final documentation of systematic family abuse and elderly neglect that would soon trigger consequences that would teach Michael the most expensive lesson about family priorities and elderly respect that any adult child had ever received from a parent whose business success and corporate influence could determine whether his comfortable lifestyle continued or disappeared entirely based on his treatment of elderly relatives who deserved gratitude rather than dismissal and neglect. Michael's pattern of family disrespect and elderly obligation avoidance had created such systematic documentation of abuse and neglect that his eventual transportation refusal would represent not an isolated incident of recreational prioritization, but the culmination of 2 years of escalated entitlement and family dismissal that demonstrated his complete transformation from grateful son who appreciated family support to entitled adult who considered elderly parent needs inconvenient interruptions of his recreational schedule and professional networking commitments that took precedent over basic human decency and family responsibility that distinguished good adult children from selfish individuals who had forgotten that their success often depended on relationships and support systems that could be withdrawn as quickly as they had been provided when recipients demonstrate unacceptable behavior toward elderly relatives whose generosity deserved respect rather than systematic abuse and exploitation. The stage was perfectly set for the ultimate transportation refusal that would trigger consequences more comprehensive and expensive than Michael could ever imagine. Teaching him that elderly relatives, who appear dependent and financially limited, may actually control the very systems and relationships that make comfortable lifestyles possible, and that family disrespect and elderly abuse can result in systematic destruction of every advantage and benefit that ungrateful adult children assume are permanent achievements, rather than understanding that professional success often requires continued gratitude, respect, and appropriate treatment of family members whose business achievements and strategic assistance created opportunities that could be eliminated as systematically as they had been provided when recipients failed to demonstrate basic human decency toward elderly relatives whose corporate influence and industry relationships determined whether comfortable lifestyles continued or disappeared entirely. The morning of Tuesday, October 10, 2023, dawned gray and threatening in Westchester County, with meteorologists predicting severe thunderstorms and heavy rainfall that would begin by early afternoon, the same afternoon when I had scheduled a critical follow-up appointment with Dr. Rebecca Martinez, my cardiologist at Mount Sinai Medical Center, to review recent test results and discuss treatment adjustments for the cardiac arrhythmia that had been requiring careful monitoring and medication management for the past 18 months since my initial diagnosis during should have been a routine annual physical examination that revealed irregularities requiring specialized cardiac care and ongoing medical supervision from one of New York's most respected cardiovascular specialists. At 11:30 a.m., exactly 3.5 hours before my scheduled 3:00 p.m. appointment with Dr. Martinez, I sent Michael a text message that would become the most expensive communication of his life. "Hi, Michael. I have an important cardiology appointment this afternoon at Mount Sinai. The weather forecast shows heavy rain starting around 2 p.m., and I would really appreciate a ride to avoid driving in the storm. The appointment should be finished by 4:30 p.m. Could you please help me with transportation today? Michael's received at 11:47 a.m., while he was apparently already at Winged Foot Golf Club, preparing for his 2:00 p.m. tea time with what he considered essential business networking that would advance his medical sales career and generate commission income that supported his family's luxury lifestyle. Demonstrated the complete culmination of 2 years of escalating family disrespect and elderly dismissal that had transformed him from a grateful son into an entitled adult who prioritized recreational golf over his elderly mother's medical needs and safety concerns during severe weather conditions that made driving dangerous for a 72-year-old woman with cardiac health issues, requiring specialized care and family support. Mom, I can't pick you up today. I have an important business meeting at Winged Foot that could close a major deal with some key decision makers from several hospital systems. This is really crucial for my career advancement and our family's financial security. Can't you just take an Uber or reschedule the appointment? It's just a routine follow-up, right? I'm sure Dr. Martinez would understand if you needed to postpone due to weather. Michael's response revealed not only his complete disregard for elderly parent medical needs and safety concerns, but also his fundamental ignorance about the nature of cardiac care and the importance of maintaining scheduled appointments with specialists who managed life-threatening conditions that required consistent monitoring and treatment coordination. His suggestion that I should just take an Uber during a severe thunderstorm demonstrated his total lack of understanding about elderly transportation safety and the physical challenges that cardiac patients faced when navigating medical appointments during dangerous weather conditions that could exacerbate health risks and create emergent situations requiring immediate family assistance and support.
But what Michael didn't know, and what he would discover within the next 72 hours in the most devastating way possible, was that his business meeting at Winged Foot Golf Club was actually a recreational golf game with Dr. James Patterson, Chief of Cardiology at Mount Sinai Medical Center, and my personal friend for over 20 years, Dr. Sarah Silverstein, Director of Medical Equipment Procurement at Mount Sinai Health System, and a member of Walsh Medical Technologies Clinical Advisory Board since 2000. Michael Chen, Chief Medical Officer at New York Presbyterian Hospital, and the executive who had personally approved over $15 million in medical device purchases from Walsh Medical Technologies over the past decade, all of whom considered Michael's inclusion in their golf group a professional courtesy, extended to the son of Catherine Walsh, whose medical technology innovations and ethical business practices had revolutionized surgical equipment standards and patient care protocols throughout the Northeast's most prestigious hospital systems. At 12:15 p.m., as the first gray clouds began gathering over Scarsdale and weather radar showed the approaching storm system that would bring dangerous driving conditions within hours, I made the decision that would change Michael's life forever. Instead of begging my son for transportation assistance or attempting to drive myself through a thunderstorm that posed serious safety risks for elderly drivers with cardiac conditions, I walked into my home office, the same office that Michael had dismissed as an elderly woman's simple retirement workspace, and began implementing consequences that would systematically eliminate every advantage, benefit, and professional opportunity that Walsh Medical Technologies' corporate influence had been providing to his family for nearly a decade. The first phone call, placed at 12:18 p.m. to Richard Davidson, CEO of MediQuip Solutions and Michael's direct supervisor, would begin the systematic destruction of everything Michael thought he had earned through personal merit and professional competence. Richard, this is Catherine Walsh from Walsh Medical Technologies. I need to inform you that effective immediately we are terminating all vendor agreements, distribution partnerships, and business relationships with MediQuip Solutions due to serious concerns about your company's commitment to family values and elderly care standards that are fundamental to our corporate culture and business philosophy. Richard Davidson's shocked silence on the other end of the line reflected his immediate understanding that losing Walsh Medical Technologies as a vendor partner would eliminate over $12 million in annual revenue, destroy Mediquip's competitive positioning in the Northeast medical device marketing, and require immediate cost-cutting measures including significant staff reductions and territory eliminations that would fundamentally restructure his company's operations and profitability projections for the remainder of the fiscal year and beyond. Catherine, I'm not sure I understand the reason for this decision. Our partnership with Walsh Medical Technologies has been incredibly successful and mutually beneficial for over 8 years. Is there something we can discuss or resolve? Davidson asked with obvious desperation, recognizing that the sudden termination of our business relationship would create catastrophic financial consequences for Mediquip Solutions and potentially threaten the company's viability in highly competitive medical equipment markets, where vendor relationships and distribution agreements determined business success or failure. Richard, when companies employ sales representatives who demonstrate systematic disrespect toward elderly family members and prioritize recreational activities over basic human decency and family care responsibility, those behaviors reflect corporate culture problems that are incompatible with Walsh Medical Technologies' values and business standards, I explained while documenting the conversation for legal purposes, making clear that Michael's pattern of elderly abuse and family neglect had created business liability and reputational risk that justified immediate termination of all commercial relationships and vendor partnerships. Furthermore, effective immediately, Michael Walsh Romano will be removed from all Walsh Medical Technologies related accounts, territory assignments, and business relationships. Any sales representative who abandons elderly family members during medical emergencies while prioritizing golf game over basic human decency demonstrates character deficiencies that make them unsuitable for representing medical technology companies that serve healthcare providers committed to patient care and family support value. The conversation continued for 18 minutes, as Richard Davidson attempted to negotiate alternative arrangements and compromise solutions that might preserve some portion of the lucrative business relationship, but my decision was final and irreversible. Mediquip Solutions had lost its most valuable vendor partnership, and Michael's sales territory, client relationships, and commission opportunities had been eliminated entirely through a single phone call that demonstrated the true source of his professional success and financial security. The second phone call, placed at 12:45 p.m. to Dr. Patricia Morrison, headmaster of the Whitmore Academy where Michael's children Emma and Lucas had been receiving full scholarship support through the Walsh Family Educational Foundation, would eliminate the educational advantages that had distinguished their academic development and college preparation from typical middle-class educational opportunities in Westchester County's competitive academic environment. Morrison, this is Catherine Walsh, founder of the Walsh Family Educational Foundation. I'm calling to inform you that we are immediately terminating all scholarship support for Emma and Lucas Romano due to family circumstances that violate our foundation's standards for respect toward elder relatives and appreciation for educational opportunities that require appropriate family values and character development. Morrison's concerned response reflected her understanding that losing full scholarship support would create immediate financial crisis for Michael's family and potentially force the children to withdraw from Whitmore Academy's elite academic programs, which required annual tuition payments of $1,000 per child that exceeded most families' discretionary income, and represented educational investments that distinguished college-bound students in highly competitive university admissions processes. Mrs. Walsh, I'm very sorry to hear about this decision. Emma and Lucas have been exemplary students who truly benefit from our academic programs and college preparatory curricula. Is there any possibility of maintaining their scholarship support while addressing whatever family issues have created this situation? Morrison asked, obviously hoping to preserve educational continuity for students whose academic performance and character development had been enhanced through access to advanced coursework and enrichment opportunities. Dr. Morrison, when families demonstrate systematic disrespect toward elderly relatives who have provided educational funding and support, and when adult children prioritize recreational activities over basic family care responsibilities and elderly medical needs, those behaviors indicate character deficiencies that are incompatible with our foundation's values and educational support criteria. I explained while reviewing the detailed documentation of Michael's pattern of family abuse and elderly neglect, that justified immediate termination of educational benefits. Educational scholarships are investments in character development and family values, not just academic achievement. Students whose families demonstrate systematic elderly abuse and disrespect toward the sources of their educational opportunities have failed to learn the fundamental lessons about gratitude, respect, and family responsibility that should guide their character development and future success. The scholarship termination became effective immediately, requiring Michael and Sarah to either secure alternative financing for $110,000 in annual tuition costs, or transfer their children to public schools that lacked the advanced academic programs, college preparation resource and social networking advantages that had been supporting Emma and Lucas's educational development and future university prospects through access to elite private education that distinguished their academic credentials and college application competitiveness. The third phone call, placed at 1:15 p.m. to Jennifer Martinez, commercial property manager for Walsh Properties LLC, and the executive responsible for managing Sarah's boutique lease agreement, would eliminate the below-market retail space that had made Elegance Boutique profitable and sustainable in Westchester County's expensive commercial real estate market, where premium retail locations commanded rental rates that typically eliminated profit margins for small business owners without significant capital reserves and established customer bases. Jennifer, this is Catherine Walsh. I need you to initiate immediate termination proceedings for the commercial lease agreement with Elegance Boutique due to tenant violations of our property management standards regarding respect for elderly property owners and appropriate recognition of business opportunities that require gratitude and professional behavior rather than family exploitation and elderly abuse. Jennifer Martinez's surprised response reflected her understanding that Elegance Boutique had been a reliable tenant with consistent rental payments and professional operations that maintained the property's reputation and commercial viability, competitive retail market where tenant stability and business success contributed to overall property values and investment returns. Mrs. Walsh, I'm not aware of any lease violations or problems with Elegance Boutique's operation. Sarah Romano has been an excellent tenant who maintains professional standards and contributes positively to our retail complex's reputation and customer traffic. Jennifer replied, obviously confused about the sudden termination decision and its potential impact on property operations and rental income. Jennifer, when commercial tenants demonstrate systematic disrespect toward elderly family members who provided their business opportunities and real estate access, when business owners fail to appreciate the strategic assistance and below-market rental arrangements that made their entrepreneurial success possible, those behaviors constitute character deficiencies that create liability and reputational risks for our property management operation, I explained while documenting the conversation for legal compliance and business justification purposes. Furthermore, effective immediately, the rental rate for Elegance Boutique will be adjusted to current market value and the lease agreement will be terminated within 30 days unless full payment for the adjusted rental rate is received along with written acknowledgement of the preferential treatment that had been provided through family business relations. The lease termination and rental rate adjustment would force Sarah to either secure additional financing for nearly doubled rental costs, or close Elegance Boutique into eliminating the business income and professional fulfillment that had supplemented Michael's sales commission and provided their family with additional financial security and social status in Westchester County's competitive suburban business environment. The fourth phone call, placed at 1:35 p.m. to Thomas Bradley, Senior Vice President at First National Bank of Westchester and the executive who had approved Michael and Sarah's mortgage application based on my personal guarantee and co-signer status, would eliminate the financial backing that had made Elzura's and house purchase possible despite their limited down payment and credit qualifications that typically would have required more stringent lending criteria and higher interest rates. Thomas, this is Catherine Walsh. I'm calling to inform you that I am immediately withdrawing as co-signer financial guarantor for the mortgage account held by Michael and Sarah Romano due to borrower behavior that violates the character and family responsibility standards that justified my initial guarantee and financial backing for their home purchase. Thomas Bradley's concerned response reflected his understanding that removing my financial guarantee would require immediate mortgage restructuring and potentially trigger acceleration clauses that could demand full loan repayment or create foreclosure proceedings if the borrowers couldn't qualify for alternative financing based on the individual credit profiles and income verification without my corporate backing and personal guarantee. Catherine, I need to understand the circumstances that are prompting this decision. Withdrawing a cosigner guarantee typically requires significant justification and can create serious financial consequences for the borrowers who may not qualify for continued financing without your backing, Bradley explained. Obviously recognizing the potential for mortgage default and foreclosure proceedings that would affect both the borrowers and the bank's loan portfolio performance. Thomas, when mortgage borrowers demonstrate systematic disrespect toward elderly cosigners who provided their homeownership opportunity, and when families prioritize recreational activities over basic care responsibilities toward elderly relatives whose financial guarantees made their housing security possible, those behaviors indicate character deficiencies that create unacceptable credit risk and moral hazard that justify immediate guarantee withdrawal and loan restructuring. I documented while reviewing Michael's pattern of family abuse that violated the trust and character standards that had justified my initial financial support. The cosigner withdrawal would require Michael and Sarah to either secure alternative financing through expensive private lending or face foreclosure proceedings that would eliminate their housing security and damage their credit ratings permanently, destroying the real estate equity and social status that their Scarsdale address had provided in Westchester County's competitive suburban housing market. By 2:00 p.m. as the first raindrops began falling and I prepared to drive myself to Martinez's appointment despite the approaching thunderstorm that Michael had considered less important than his golf game, the systematic destruction of his family's comfortable lifestyle was already underway through the elimination of employment, income, educational funding, business operation, and housing security that had been supporting their upper-middle-class lifestyle for nearly a decade without their knowledge or appropriate appreciation. But the most devastating consequences were yet to come, as the network effects of Walsh Medical Technologies' industry influence would create cascading professional and financial destruction that would teach Michael the true cost of elderly abuse and family disrespect in the interconnected world of medical equipment sales, where reputation, relationships, and corporate partnerships determined career success and advancement opportunities throughout the healthcare technology industry. The fifth phone call, placed at 2:15 p.m. while driving through increasingly heavy rain to Mount Sinai Medical Center, was to Dr. James Patterson, chief of cardiology and Michael's golf partner, to inform him about the character issues that made Michael unsuitable for professional relationships with healthcare executives who valued family responsibility and elderly care as fundamental character qualifications for business partnerships and professional networking opportunities. Jim, this is Catherine Walsh. I wanted to inform you personally that my son Michael has been demonstrating systematic disrespect toward elderly family members and prioritizing recreational activities over basic family care responsibility, including abandoning his elderly mother during medical emergencies to maintain golf schedules with business contacts, who should understand that character deficiencies make individuals unsuitable for professional relationships in healthcare industries that serve families and elderly patients. Patterson's shocked response reflected his immediate understanding that character issues and elderly abuse created professional liability and reputational risks for healthcare executives who maintained business relationships with individuals whose personal behavior contradicted the family value and patient care standards that guided medical profession ethics and healthcare industry relations. The conversation continued throughout my drive to Mount Sinai Medical Center as Dr. Patterson shared my concerns about character requirements for healthcare industry professionals and agreed that systematic elderly abuse and family disrespect disqualified individuals from business relationships and professional networking opportunities with healthcare executives who needed to maintain ethical standards and community reputation that supported patient care and family services through their medical practice operations. By 3:00 p.m., as I arrived at Mount Sinai Medical Center for my cardiology appointment that Michael had considered less important than his golf game. Word was already spreading throughout the Northeast medical equipment industry about character issues and elderly abuse that made Michael unsuitable for professional relationships with healthcare executives, hospital administrators, and medical device companies that valued family responsibility and elderly care as fundamental qualifications for business partnerships and career advancement opportunities. The appointment with Dr. Martin, conducted while Michael played golf in the rain, that he had expected me to drive through alone, included discussions about my cardiac health status and treatment protocols, but also provided opportunities to inform trusted healthcare colleagues about family character issues that affect professional relationships and business partnerships throughout the medical technology industry, where reputation and ethical behavior determined career success and advancement opportunities for sales representatives who sought access to hospital decision makers and medical equipment procurement authorities. During the following 48 hours, as Michael remained oblivious to the systematic destruction of his professional reputation and family financial security, the network effects of Walsh Medical Technologies' industry influence created cascading consequences that eliminated every advantage and benefit that his family had been receiving through corporate partnerships and strategic business relationships that required character qualifications and family responsibility standards for continued support and professional association. The medical equipment sales territory that Michael had managed for 8 years was redistributed to competing representatives who demonstrated appropriate character and family values, while his client relationships and hospital access were permanently eliminated through industry networking or professional reputation management that protected healthcare executives from association with individuals whose personal behavior contradicted medical profession ethics and patient care standards. The commission income that had funded Michael's luxury lifestyle disappeared entirely as his sales territory, client relationships, and hospital access were systematically eliminated through industry reputation damage and character disqualification that spread throughout the Northeast medical equipment market via professional networking and corporate communication channels that valued family responsibility and elderly care as fundamental requirements for business relationships and career advancement opportunity. Michael's professional reputation in medical equipment sales was permanently destroyed through industry networking and character assessment protocols that eliminated his access to hospital decision makers, medical equipment procurement opportunities, and sales territory assignments throughout the Northeast healthcare technology market, where Walsh Medical Technologies' influence and industry relationships determined career prospects and advancement opportunities for sales representatives who sought access to major hospital accounts and medical device distribution partnerships. The golf club membership at Winged Foot, which had provided Michael with social access to healthcare executives and business networking opportunities that he believed reflected his professional achievement, was terminated due to character issues and family responsibility deficiencies that made him unsuitable for social relationships with club members who valued elderly care and family respect as fundamental character qualifications for professional association and business relationship development. By Friday, October 13th, exactly 72 hours after Michael had refused to provide transportation assistance for his elderly mother's medical appointment, his family faced complete financial devastation and lifestyle destruction that would require years to overcome through career rebuilding and financial rehabilitation. Assuming he could ever regain professional credibility and industry access in medical equipment sales markets where character, reputation, and family responsibility determined business relationship viability and career advancement opportunity. Michael's frantic phone calls and desperate attempts to contact former clients, business associates, and healthcare executives were met with professional distance and character concerns that eliminated any possibility of career recovery or relationship restoration in medical equipment sales markets, where elderly abuse and family disrespect created permanent reputation damage and professional disqualification that affected not only individual career prospects but also family financial security and social status throughout competitive suburban communities,
where professional success determined lifestyle options and social acceptance.
The expensive lesson that Michael learned about family priorities and elderly respect would serve as a permanent reminder that professional success often depends on character qualifications and family responsibility standards that require continued gratitude, respect, and appropriate treatment of elderly relatives whose business achievements and strategic assistance create opportunities and advantages that can be eliminated as systematically as they are provided when recipients demonstrate unacceptable behavior toward family members whose generosity deserves appreciation rather than exploitation and abuse. Today, 3 years after Michael refused to pick up his elderly mother from a medical appointment because golf was more important than family responsibility, he works as a retail sales associate at a medical supply store, earning irregularly while struggling to maintain rental payments on a small apartment in Queens, after losing his Scarsdale house to foreclosure proceedings that eliminated his family's housing security and social status in Westchester County's affluent suburban community. Sarah's boutique business closed permanently after she couldn't afford the adjusted market rate rental costs, and she now works as a department store sales clerk earning $28,000 annually while managing the financial stress and credit damage that resulted from business failure and mortgage default that destroyed their entrepreneurial dreams and financial independence in competitive retail markets where success requires substantial capital investment and strategic business relationships. Emma and Lucas Romano attend public schools in Queens where they struggle academically without advanced programs and college preparation resources that had been supporting their educational development through elite private school opportunities that required not only academic excellence but also character development and family values that their father had failed to demonstrate through treatment of elderly relatives who had funded their educational advantages and future prospects. The modest colonial house in Scarsdale where I continue living while managing Walsh Medical Technologies' expanding operations, now serves as headquarters for medical technology innovations that have grown our company's annual revenue to over $52 million, while providing employment opportunities and career advancement for medical sales professionals who demonstrate character qualifications and family responsibility standards that distinguish ethical business relationships from transaction associations that ignore fundamental human values and elderly care responsibilities. The Walsh Institute for Healthcare Innovation continues training selected professionals in medical technology sales and healthcare equipment management, with graduates understanding that success in health industries requires character qualifications and family responsibility standards that honor elderly relatives and demonstrate appreciation for generational support that creates opportunities and advantages, requiring continued gratitude rather than exploitation and abuse. Sometimes the most important lesson you can teach ungrateful adult children is that professional success and financial security aren't individual achievements independent of family relationships and generational support, but opportunities created through business relationships and strategic assistance that require continued character qualifications and family responsibility standards that distinguish grateful recipients from entitled individuals who assume their advantages are permanent and self-generated rather than understanding that elderly relatives who appear dependent actually control the systems and relationships that determine whether comfortable lifestyles continue or disappear entirely based on treatment of family members whose generosity deserves respect rather than systematic abuse and neglect. Michael learned that elderly parents who request transportation assistance may be testing family priorities and character qualifications that determine whether strategic business relationships and corporate influence continue supporting ungrateful family members or are systematically redirected toward individuals who understand that success requires gratitude, respect, and appropriate treatment of elderly relatives whose business achievements created opportunities that could be withdrawn as comprehensively as they had been provided when recipients demonstrated unacceptable behavior toward family members whose medical technology controlled the very industry where their professional careers and financial security depended on character, reputation, and family responsibility standards. The phone call that changed everything wasn't Michael's refusal to provide transportation assistance. It was my call to industry executives who understood that character matters more than sales performance, and that elderly abuse creates professional liability that eliminates business relationships and career opportunities regardless of individual qualifications or previous success in medical equipment sales markets, where family responsibility and ethical behavior determine professional credibility and advancement prospects throughout healthcare technology industries that serve elderly patients and families who deserve representatives with character qualifications that honor fundamental human values and elderly care responsibility. What would you have done if your adult child refused to help you during a medical emergency because golf was more important than family responsibility? Have you ever experienced family members who took your generosity for granted while assuming their advantages were permanent and self-generated, rather than understanding that professional success often depends on relationships and support systems that require continued gratitude and appropriate treatment of elderly relatives whose business achievements create opportunities requiring character qualifications and family responsibility standards? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know if this story has inspired you to examine your own family relationships and character priorities, understanding that elderly relatives who appear dependent may actually control resources and business relationships that determine their comfortable lifestyles continue or disappear entirely based on treatment of family members whose generosity deserves appreciation rather than systematic abuse and exploitation that crosses fundamental lines of human decency and family responsibility. And if you found this story of medical industry justice and family accountability inspiring, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories of people who discovered that character matters more than professional achievement, and that elderly abuse creates consequences more comprehensive and permanent than any recreational activity or business networking opportunity could justify, when family responsibility and basic human decency are replaced by entitlement and systematic disrespect toward elderly relatives whose business success and strategic assistance created advantages that could be eliminated as systematically as they had been provided when recipients failed to demonstrate character qualifications that honor generational support and family relationships, requiring gratitude rather than exploitation. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.